Die Corona. Die Corona. Die. Don't get in the screen. Hey everybody, how's it going? So today we're going to be working on a MacBook. It is a MacBook that we are fixing. I'm out of magnets. I'm out of magnets. Here we go. Steal this magnet. As long as I'm still alive, Sabatino. I have not, Zephyrius. I have not at all. I actually had that argument at the store. Someone brought something like that up. So I said, how about this? You don't wear a mask, I wear a mask, and I will still beat you in a pull-up contest. Let's do it. I think I got 18 out. So long as I win the pull-up contest, you wear the mask. I'm a tyrant! Thanks, Lewis. I repaired a Ryzen processor. Remember, the bigger the glob, the better the job. How are you repairing a processor? Alright. By the way, I wanted to say thank you very much to Mike C. that sent me these nitrile gloves. They're white, so I look like a Disney princess, but that's cool. I kind of miss looking like a Disney princess. Always wanted to be a princess. Kanye 2020. Indeed! If Kanye supports right to repair, I'd vote for him. Unfortunately, Kanye is out of his mind. Then again, Trump is out of his mind. Joe Biden's mind is kind of broken. And, yeah, so there's not really much to choose from there. Yeah, you're really limited in the choices there if you want someone whose brain isn't fucked. All right. Get the Paul Daniels multimeter software on the screen. Let's get this set up to 18.5 volts, like a MagSafe. Looks like it turns on. So this said no power in the ticket, but this does turn on. However, it even chimes and goes dong, and yep, that's what we call a boring ass ticket. Next! Yeah, that's what we call boring shit. That's what we call next right there. If you write as your problem description no power and the shit already turns on. Boring! Next. Next. Computer. Die Corona. Die Corona. Burn Corona. Burn Corona. Die. can't get too much inside the screen area, so you got to be sensitive there. I'll soak you in alcohol, John DeComo. Hello, Charles. Why don't you use a hub motor on your bike instead of a BBS HD? Because hub motors are a fucking pain in the fucking ass, that's why. Just figuring out if the hub motor will fit your bike is a fucking nightmare. You need to figure out the dropouts. You need to figure out all this shit. I've gotten 3 separate bikes that I thought would work with a hub motor, and neither of them want to fit the hub motor, and it's like you gotta file shit in the frame, and fuck all that. Seriously. Fuck it all. I am considering getting a Cyclone for another build. Like, I get it. You have cassettes, and you have chains, and all that stuff is a pain in the ass, but you know what's a pain in the ass? Not knowing if it's gonna fit until you buy the fucking bike, spend the money on it, and realize nothing will fit it. It's annoying. It's incredibly annoying, and I don't want to deal with that shit anymore. Yeah, hub motors they're such a fucking pain in the dick. Like a mid-drive, like you buy it, you install it, you're good, you ride. With a hub, it's like you buy it, oh, it doesn't fit this bike, let me try a different hub. Oh, it still doesn't fit this bike. Okay, let me try a different bike. Oh, it still doesn't fit this bike. It's like, fucking hell. Fuck. No. No. Propaganda of the hub motor. I have thought about getting a Cyclone. Alright, what's this one doing? Clinton the cat. Suka Ballet. Alright, let's unplug the battery here. Okay. We have 20 milliamps being taken. Well, wonder why we're only getting 20 milliamps. Let's see what our PP Bus G3 hot is. Our PP Bus appears to be 0 volts. Yet we're at 20 volts, we're at 19.94 volts, so our CD3215s are likely doing their job, which means PP3V3 underscore G3 hot's present. Let's get the board out of the case and go from there. Do you wash your PP Bus? Twice a day. I actually try to wash it every time I pee. You can always solder your own bike frame. Fuck that. Have you started your investigation on Apple A-Series boot process? I have not started any investigation on any A-Series anything. I personally have not begun an investigation. Nope. I'm fixing a MacBook. Did you see the lawsuit against Twitch? Nope. Your post doesn't make sense, so I don't know what to say there. I don't know, Mela. Ask her. Not sure. Yeah, the white gloves are kind of like I feel like a Disney princess. I've always wanted to be a princess. And now I finally can say that I'm a princess. I'm a princess. Look at my white gloves. Thunder connectors under shields. I don't know what that is. Sex addict claims hot female gamers cause him to injure penis. Oh man, fuck this litigious country. Sometimes, like I really wish that shit would end. This is why we need EULAs that are like 98 pages long. It adds to the cost of everything. It really does. I wonder if that's what Hi's for looking at all day at work. Like, is he doing the sell customer and fresh desk tickets right now? Or is he doing something to Jade the Jaguar? I don't know. I don't know how I'd tell either. It's a MacBook, Joe, you serve. You have your answer. We're doing good since we have a 1 ohm short to ground on the PP bus of G3 hot. Let's see if we can figure out what it is. I think I know what it is. Do any of you? Do any of you? This is where Paul would say it's not fair. And Paul would have a point. Paul would have a point. Some days you don't feel like turning on your hot air station. So what you can do is you can kind of heat both sides of the component by heating one side and letting the heat travel to the other. Or if the other side doesn't want to heat much, well, you can still kind of lift up the component from one side. And even if it is a surface mount component, you can solder it without hot tweezers or a hot air station. What you do is you solder one side of the board over here. So over here what I could do is I could solder, let's say, only this side, like so. And then I can slide that component right in. So I'm going to take it off of a donor right now. Looks like my flux has been stolen from me. Oh, here we go. It's moved. So watch what we do here. So I'm going to slide this cap from the donor board in on the top. Because remember, I can only really heat one side properly. I can only heat one side of this cap properly. So I'm going to heat the side where there is solder. But it's going to be flat on the board on the other side because there's no solder on the other side. So I can just do this. Push down. Add some flux. And then we solder the other side. And it'll be flat on the board. See? No hot air station needed. Just for those of you wondering, since that came up in my chat recently, how would I replace one of these components if I don't have a hot air station? And if you have a soldering iron, you really can get a lot of the job done that you would typically use a hot air station for. I mean, you may be able to get it done cleaner if you have hot tweezers, larger hot tweezers, or a hot air station. For sure, it's going to be cleaner. But just if you want to have an idea of how you could actually get the job done. And you can see that it's pretty strong there. You know, I can't really just knock or pry it off, and there's no way for me to get under it because it's flat on the board already. So now what I want to do is I want to see if I got rid of my short circuit. It's kind of curious there. So I'm going to check my PP bus G3 hot. My PP bus right here. Not shorted anymore. Yep, 3 kiloohms, and rising quickly. So when I plug this in, it's going to take 600 milliamps, which means it's going to be turning on, and you're going to see that the amperage is going to be jumping up, down, up, down, up, down, like it should be on a nice fixed happy MacBook. Ahem. Assumes Lewis can actually plug the charger in properly. Big if. There you go, 570, 538, 536, 568. That's a happy MacBook. All it really needed was for me to remove that one capacitor on PP Bus G3 Hot, the main power rail that was bad. I could see it with my eyes. I didn't really need a microscope for it. And you can see, just for the hell of it, I didn't use hot air. Again, you don't always need to use hot air to replace the component. What you do is you remove it the way I showed you. Once it's removed, you wick the pads. You have solder on one pad. The other one's flat. Because remember, your iron can only heat one pad at a time. So you're going to heat that one pad that you put solder on, slide the capacitor in while it's, you know, pushing the capacitor flat on the board. Then when you're done, you can solder the other side, and it will be nice and flat on the board. Because if you have solder on both pads, you can only solder one at a time. So you're going to wind up with a cap like this is the board, right? Let's say this is the board, and the cap is going to be sitting on it like this. And there's going to be this big wedge between the cap and the board, or the SMD and the board, and then you could it's easier for it to pry off or break off or anything like that, and that's just kind of sad. You don't want that to happen. So that's about it for that. And because my OCD is killing me, I'm going to want to hot air that into place. Because I can! I know, it's a fucking... I shouldn't be this OCD about everything, but I kind of want to be. This is really not necessary. But when there's something called surface tension, the cap is going to get pulled into place. Once the solder pads are both fully molten, you'll see the cap is naturally going to fall into place, into exactly where the god of solder says it should go. Oh, that's... Yeah, I needed to see that. It settles into place, and it's absolutely beautiful. So that's about it for that board. That's it for today, and as always, I hope that you learned something about soldering without a hot air station if you're too broke to have a hot air station, because everybody who starts out in this business usually starts out too broke to have a hot air station. So there you go. Cut! I do not, Andre. I don't know. Don't know. Don't know.
Pitchfork-wielding protesters ascend on wealthy Hamptons estates. A caravan of protesters, some wielding pitchforks, descended on the Hamptons Wednesday to blast the rich and decry the nation's rising income inequality. More than 100 drivers and about 200 marchers paid a visit to the homes of some of the world's wealthiest people, including ex-New York City Mayor Mike Bloomberg. Tax the rich, not the poor, the protesters chanted outside Bloomberg's $20 million Southampton mansion, with some calling the failed presidential candidate a looter. Protesters, several of whom came in from the Big Apple, demanded that the New York governor, Andrew Cuomo, raise taxes on the state's 118 billionaires to make up for a steep revenue shortfall amid the coronavirus pandemic. The group is taking issue with Cuomo's pitch to cut 20% in state funding from schools, hospitals, and housing agencies. They noted that while the virus outbreak has deeply impacted low-income people and communities of color, the wealth of U.S. billionaires has surged. Enough is enough. It's time for New York State to raise taxes on the rich instead of cutting services for working people, said Alice Nascimento, Director of Policy and Research for New York Communities for Change, which helped organize the action. Organizers also included the New York Taxi Workers Alliance, with about 40 medallion cabs taking part. The cabbies were already in debt crisis before the virus emerged and have been hit hard by the pandemic. You know, if the cabs would stop opening their window before letting me in and asking where I'm going and then locking the door and driving away when I say that I'm going to Bed-Stuy, maybe there'd be less of that. I don't have a lot of sympathy for the yellow cabs. And when people say that, like, you know, Uber and Lyft are destroying the yellow taxis, like the amount of times that I've had someone say, "Where are you going?" And then I go Bed-Stuy, and they no, they just drive away and lock their doors. No sympathy for you. But to continue, they led a chant of "No more suicides, no more bankruptcies" at one point during the march. Members of the, I'm going to mispronounce that, so I'm just not going to say it because I'm going to mispronounce it, and it's going to be bad. Members of this Indian nation also took part in the protest, including Rebecca Genia, who said in a statement, "Billionaires take our land to build golf courses and mansions, profit off from the ravages of coronavirus, and exploit our labor. It's clear the real looters in New York are the billionaires, and it's time to make them pay their fair share so we can all thrive." The group also stopped by mansions owned by Blackstone CEO Stephen Schwarzman and real estate developer Stephen Ross, and had planned to visit the estate of investor and hedge fund manager Daniel Loeb. Billionaires are experts in social distancing, Nascimento told the Post. They've chosen to live in their own world and are separate from the realities of everyday people and to the people whose lives they have a tremendous impact on. Taking the protest to the wealthy enclave shows that we are here, we are affected, we're not going to stand down, we're going to make sure our voices are heard. And this is one of the things where when I've said that I kind of like want to leave the New York City area, even if I were to leave like this area and go somewhere else, like a suburb nearby, you're never really going to get away from the from this, really. Like there's people marching by with pitchforks and all that kind of stuff. Even if it's a plastic pitchfork, all that stuff. And I get it. One of the things I've said is that rich people are really bad at doing PR for their own image and making, because one of the things of being a billionaire is you're a ridiculous minority. And as a minority, you're going, you got to make some effort to, if large groups of people intensely dislike you, and do things like what happened to Jeff Bezos and put guillotines outside of their home, you really got to put some effort in to make it seem like that's not what should be happening. And like I remember when Jeff Bezos and Amazon took over Whole Foods, some benefits at Whole Foods were cut. And it's just stuff like that where when you see that we live in a time, regardless of what your internal politics are, I'm just talking from a practical sense, when you see that there are democratic socialists getting elected to positions in Congress and local and city council and so on and so forth all across the country, you may not want to do that because, again, the whole guillotine thing and all of that. That being said, one of the things that is really, when people say they're mad at Andrew Cuomo for not taxing the billionaires more and cutting the state budget, is that it's one thing if you do it at the federal level, because if you do it at the federal level, so long as you live in America, then you're being taxed more. But you can't really do this stuff at the state level because there's not, in New York City, the amount of taxes that are paid by the people who are wealthy already are fairly high. They're higher than they would be virtually anywhere else in the country. And at some point, the billionaires in this area are going to say, well, okay, I can just go 200 miles in that direction and avoid this. And they have the ability to do that. Because that's the thing. If Like, if you raise taxes in the United States, the likelihood of people actually leaving the country, like an argument could be made there, but I'd say probably not. But the argument for people leaving New York City is actually why not? Many of the things that New York is known for, all the bars, the shows, the small shops, all that stuff, it's all gone. The place that I had my first date that went well in the entire city is a nice little restaurant I used to go to all the time, is now a Santander or a Sartander, I forget what the name of it, Santander Bank. There was a record store on the end of that block that's now a Capital One. Like, all the stuff that made the city cool has been replaced with Starbucks, Chase, Whole Foods, Starbucks, Chase, Trader Joe's, Starbucks, Chase, Santander, Starbucks, Chase, Santander. And now that you have Corona, after the Corona happens, all that stuff is closed. A lot of it may not come back. After the protest and then the riot and the looting and all that, like, there's really not much of an argument to be made for why it is someone would want to stay in the city. So what I find really sad here is, let's say that the protesters are correct and they're pointing to specific billionaires that have done specific things that are bad. Let's say you go on that side. I don't see how this is something that's actually going to be fixable. So the rhetoric towards the rich is going to get worse. Which may lead to taxes going up. That's going to lead to them leaving. Them leaving means the few people that are left are going to have now the budget's even worse. Now we have to tax them even more, which is then going to lead to more people leaving, more budget cuts, more protests, more taxes, people leaving. And it's going to be like this little god-awful vicious circle. And it's one of those things where I do wonder, do I want to be around for that? Is this going to be the place that I want to live once that occurs? But the thing is, like, people tend to go all one way or all the other with this. It's all envy. These people are all crazy. There's nothing. The rich earned everything, and I mean, there's a lot of stuff that people do that is really underhanded and disgusting that allows them to become rich. And then there are people that say, all these people are clearly bad, every single one, last one of them. And there are lots of people that have actually earned a lot of their money, and, they weren't rent seekers. They genuinely added value to society in a fair way. That's not the point. I'm not even trying to get into that debate here. But, there's this, forget this one movie in 2010 about the financial crisis. It's a pretty good one because he caught a lot of people pretty scared about everything that was going on. What was the name of that? Let's see. What was the name of that? Yeah, Inside Job. That was a good one. Like, when you say somebody, I know it's partisan, but just when you see that movie, The Inside Job, and you see some of the interviews, and you see the people sweating when they get asked certain questions, it makes you just want to throw shit through your television and pray that it comes out through the other end and hits that person right in the face. But I'm not even going to get into that. I'm not even going to get into the back and forth about that whole debate. The point here that makes me sad is, it doesn't matter what side of this you're on. It doesn't matter if you're one of those people saying, they're all fuck the communist protesters, or if you're one of those people saying, put all the rich in a guillotine. None of that shit really matters here for me. What matters, America's screwed. I don't know. I think New York. I don't think America's screwed. But what matters here is that all these individuals, when they see that people are marching past their places with the pitchforks and all that, and it's like, well, there's not as much to do here as there used to be, and it's going to cost more to live here, and everybody here seems to hate us, Huntsville, Alabama, Fort Lauderdale. You look around the country, and you really... It's not even the fact that the places are cheaper, because once you make as much money as these people make, it does. Like, once you're a billionaire, how much you're taxed, I really don't think that fucking matters to you anymore. Like, once you're worth $8 billion or $7 billion, I really don't think it matters to you anymore. But what matters is, what are you surrounded by? And if, like, this, I don't see the case where these people are going to be staying. And I don't see how, if you increase those taxes at the state level more than they are, when New York City is pretty up there in the taxes, I don't see how this doesn't result in people leaving, going somewhere else, and then the people left behind being more and more screwed. Because you have to think about this. The people that are in the best position to say, fuck it, let me just move somewhere else, are the people who are rich. The people who are on not the best financial footing, those are the people that are stuck. Because they're the people where, let's say if your rent is $1,600 and you make $1,750 or $1,800 a month, there's a real razor thin wire that you have there. There's a very, 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 you can't afford to move, because if you move and you find a place, but there's a blip, or you got to pay to reset up the place you live in, or you have a gap in work for 8 days, you're fucked, because you're on this little treadmill. I've been on that treadmill before, and the moment that you stop running, it tosses you right off the treadmill. The people that are broke, they're going to stay. Even though it's expensive here, they have come up with a situation for themselves that allows them to live. They've come up with something that allows them to make the money that they need to make to be here. So even like if your rent somewhere else is $900, but you don't have a job, you're actually worse off than someone whose rent is $1,600, but they have a support system. They know how much they're going to make from their job. They know that there is a chance of them, maybe getting this side hustle opportunity from a neighbor or something in the next 2 to 6 months. Those people are kind of stuck here in a way that the people who are billionaires or multimillionaires are not. If you're worth 20 million or 70 million or 100 million, getting up and moving to a place somewhere else in Fort Lauderdale or Huntsville, Alabama, or Lexington, Kentucky, or Brookfield, Wisconsin, or going wherever the hell you want to go, it's pretty easy to you. You can hire movers, you can hire a person to judge houses based on criteria, so you don't even have to go into them. You don't even have to walk into them to see what it is you like. All that shit is going to be done. It's going to be easy as hell for them. The cost of moving, the friction is very low. So Cuomo is in an interesting spot here, because no matter what he does, he's going to be hated. And I say this as someone who has, I'm one of the original Cuomo haters. Watch every interview that Larry Sharp's done. He goes over the downsides of Cuomo very, very well. But, Cuomo's kind of fucked regardless of what he does here. Because if he doesn't raise taxes, then the pitchforks are going to come for him. But if he does raise taxes, then reality is going to set in, which is that those people will go to another state. Because you have to understand, New York City doesn't have anything going for it that justifies it being so expensive. It's not like there's a luxury here that's not available in other states. When you go to other states, it's cleaner. That when you go to other states, the people in other states are actually nicer to you. It's not just the fact, it's not even just the surroundings. When you go outside of New York City or New York State or Long Island, people are actually friendly to you. I'm never going to forget this thing. I'm just walking into this place while I was on the way to around Allentown, Pennsylvania, and I walk into this gas station convenience shop, and someone looks at me and says, and says hi. And I thought, the first thing I immediately did is I took my left hand and I went for my wallet, because I thought, her boyfriend's pickpocketing me or something. Because when someone just randomly smiles at you and says hi, and where I live, that the first thing that comes into my head is somebody's trying to rob me. So I go and I check, and I said hi. And she says, which one of these should I get? And I said, I think you should get this one. It's healthy and it's a good flavor. And she says, all right, you have a nice day now. And she said, have a nice day. Just have a nice day, and left like that. It's crazy. People are actually nice to you. And you go to other parts of the country, and you could see the sky clearly. The traffic isn't awful. The people are nice. You have to understand that the selling points that to have New York City be taxed at a premium over other parts of the country, you got to be careful, because there's not a lot here to make it worth that. It would be one thing if, New York City is special and better than every other place in the world, so tax it more, but I don't see that. So I think a lot of those people are going to wind up leaving. And whether or not they earned their money, or whether they're evil fuckface oppressors that have screwed their way into every single dime they had, Inside Job 2010 movie style, and are absolute scumbags, that doesn't really change the fact of the matter that they have the freedom to choose to leave the state. So if you address this at a federal level, well then, they're kind of stuck. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if they go to Huntsville, Alabama. It doesn't matter if they go to Orlando, Florida. It doesn't matter if they go to New Hampshire, Delaware, California, New York, or Alaska. The tax will occur. But if you try to pressure the governor to do something about it, you're stuck in this situation where again, it doesn't matter what Cuomo does. He's fucked. And I kind of feel some sympathy there. As someone who genuinely dislikes Cuomo because he believes he's a dictator. So this is this is an interesting thing. This is an interesting thing. I'm kind of curious how this is going to go. And like, I understand why people are pissed. Cutting 20% from schools, hospitals, and housing agencies. I grew up in New York City. I went to a school in New York City. I'm fully aware that New York City schools are funded at a higher rate than schools around the country, and they still suck. I'm fully aware of how shit our school system was. I don't think like cutting funds from it's probably just gonna make shit even worse than it already is. Housing agencies, again, a lot of people here are living from paycheck to paycheck. There's this idea that New York City is where all the it's where all the money is, but it's where all the money is because there's a small group of people that have all the money, and then there's a bunch of people that are actually completely broke that do live paycheck to paycheck. So cutting it from the housing projects and all that, this is all going to be something where the people that are left are going to get more increasingly aggravated and angry. The people who leave are going to result in there being less money in the city, which means, trying to get more out of the people that stay, making them more angry, getting them to leave. And I don't see this going anywhere good. I don't see that. And, I don't see how this gets fixed easily. I don't see this being fixed at all, honestly, because like New York City has been a clusterfuck for a really long time. And as I've said in many of my videos, the primary reason I'm here is because New York City has one thing going for it. One thing, which is that if you have a good idea and you're willing to work your balls off, then you can work 16 or 18 hours a day. You can start from scratch like I did. You could start with, $200 in your bank account and a few $100s in credit card debt and make something of yourself and build something from nothing. If you're willing to do that 17 hours a day, if you're willing to stand in an Apple store and walk in with a blue polo shirt and say, how can I help you, and deal with their customers, you can get something going for yourself here that you're not going to get in some small town where, one person drives by every 30 minutes. It's not the same. You can make something of yourself here. There's money here. There are customers here. There's all different types of business from all around the world. It is that melting pot. But the problem is that this melting pot has slowly over the years become more and more insanely expensive. It's been driving more and more people out because it keeps becoming more and more expensive. And at some point, you really do have to wonder, is it worth the amount of money to stay here? Is it worth the quality of life that you're giving up by choosing to be here over any other peaceful, quiet, happy part, nice looking, pretty lawns, buildings that are maintained properly, prices that are normal, people are nice part of the United States to stay? And I really do believe that New York City is finally on that downswing, because regardless of how bad people have said New York is, and scummy it is, it's been scummy and disgusting for a long time. But there was always that level of opportunity here. And I think that this is finally going to be that shift where that starts to go away, where businesses decide, wait a second, I could have my employees work from home, so why am I paying $80,000 a month for a lease? I could pay $30,000 a month for a lease and get everything done. Everything's going to get done. So I thought people working from home was going to be terrible. I thought that was a bad idea. I thought that would never work. But since there was a shutdown, I was forced to challenge that. Toronto, that's a bit. I don't know about Toronto, but there's this. I was proven wrong. So clearly people can work from home, maybe a lot of the corporate executives say. So now they're forced to say, well, why are we paying $80,000 a month for office space when we can pay $30,000 anywhere else and it's nicer? Yeah, I don't get that at all. So there's going to be a lot of people that leave the city, a lot of companies that leave the city, because they figured out they can get work done without having to be here, which is going to mean less opportunity for the people that are here, less customers for the businesses that choose to stay here, which means they're going to leave. I really do think that New York City is going to be on the downswing. And the thing that's sad here is I'm not saying I have a solution for any of this. To be clear, I don't have a solution. I'm not trying to prescribe a solution. I just don't see where any of this gets better. And that makes me kind of sad. So, yeah, I'll see you all later.